Who should you live with after turning 70 to truly enjoy a longer, more joyful life? Let me tell you two stories. At 73, Linda believed that living alone was the highest form of independence until one evening, she fainted in her kitchen and lay helpless on the cold floor for over 13 hours before anyone found her. That night didn't just scare her. It changed everything. Meanwhile, just a few blocks away, 92-year-old Grace danced and laughed with her friends at a weekly board game night, her eyes full of life, her spirit full of connection. Grace didn't stumble upon this joyful life by accident. She spent years exploring different ways to live as she aged, ways that didn't just improve her mood but added real, measurable years to her life. And she's not alone. A remarkable 80-year Harvard study tracking hundreds of people has revealed one specific living arrangement that not only boosts happiness but can add up to 7 extra years of life. What is it? Stay with me, and you'll discover the answer and maybe even find a new path forward for your own golden years. Let me introduce you to Grace Lynn, a remarkable 92-year-old woman whose journey could change the way you think about aging. Grace wasn't always the lively, connected person you'll come to admire. At age 70, she had just retired from a long career as a piano teacher in Atlanta. She had been living alone for nearly 5 years since her husband passed. In the same quiet house where they had raised their children, her 2 sons lived on opposite coasts, and Grace felt determined to show the world she could manage on her own. But that sense of independence slowly turned into quiet isolation. What sets Grace apart is that she refused to accept loneliness as normal. Over the next decade, she tested 4 completely different ways of living carefully, noting how each one affected her health and happiness. Now, at 92, Grace is thriving. She's more socially active than ever and helps guide others who are facing the same difficult questions she once did. Before we explore the living options, Grace discovered there's something important we need to face a silent epidemic quietly affecting millions of older adults. Loneliness. It's not just a feeling, it's a growing health threat. In fact, the U.S. Surgeon General has stated that prolonged loneliness can be just as harmful as smoking a full pack of cigarettes every day. For seniors, the risks are even more serious. People over 65 who live alone face a significantly higher chance of developing dementia, heart disease, and weakened immune function. It's not just emotional, it's biological. Grace lived through it herself. After my husband passed, I kept telling everyone I was fine. She remembers, but my body told the truth. In just 2 years, her blood pressure spiked. She couldn't sleep through the night. She withdrew from social events. Her doctor visit doubled, and her spirit dimmed. The loneliness crept in slowly. She started talking to cashiers just to hear another voice. She left the television on for hours just to feel less alone. I was existing, she says softly, but I wasn't really living. What shocked her most was realizing this wasn't about being clingy or needy. Studies from the University of Chicago reveal that perceived isolation sets off the same stress response as facing physical danger. Your body literally reacts as if it's under threat, releasing chemicals that speed up aging. Even more heartbreaking, most seniors hide it well. Many don't want to worry their families. They put on a brave face. Society praises independence, but forgets that being alone too long can steal our health quietly. Grace's wake-up call came during a 3-day power outage. I realized I could vanish, and no one would even know. She recalls, that was the moment she chose to age with purpose, not just in place. Have you ever felt that kind of invisible loneliness? If so, you're not alone. Share your thoughts in the comments. We're here to listen. Grace's first idea seemed like the most natural choice: move in with family. Her daughter Melissa had gently mentioned it before, and her son-in-law even remodeled their guest house to make her feel at home. It felt like a warm invitation. Grace remembers, I truly believed living with them would bring us even closer. At first, things went smoothly. Grace enjoyed sharing meals, helping out with small tasks, and spending time with her teenage grandson, who loved having his grandma nearby. Melissa felt reassured knowing her mother was safe, and Grace appreciated the daily company and rhythm of family life. But as weeks turned into months, subtle tensions began to appear. Grace sometimes needed quiet time, but felt guilty saying no to family activities. Melissa, trying to be a good daughter, took on more emotional responsibility than she realized, feeling pressure to keep Grace happy. Neither of them wanted to cause discomfort, but both felt it quietly building. I started to feel like a guest in their world, Grace recalls, like I was someone's mother or grandma, but not myself anymore. The dynamics shifted in small, unexpected ways. Decisions were made on her behalf. Routines became tangled, and her grandson began to withdraw, needing more privacy. The real turning point came during a disagreement over finances. Grace wanted to contribute to household costs, but Melissa refused. What was meant as generosity turned into misunderstanding. Grace felt like a burden. Melissa felt unappreciated. Studies show nearly 70% of multi-generational households face similar growing pains. The problem isn't love, it's boundaries, communication, and managing different needs under one roof. After 6 months, Grace made the hard choice to move out. It wasn't a failure, she says. It was clarity. I learned I needed independence with connection, not closeness that came with silent compromise. Have you ever experienced the challenges of living with family in later life? What worked and what didn't? Feel free to share your story in the comments. After moving out from her daughter's home, Grace took a leap she never thought she would. She looked for a roommate. At 71, I thought those days were long gone, she says with a smile. But sometimes, unexpected situations push us toward creative solutions. Through a senior center in her town, Grace met Lillian, a 68-year-old former nurse, also living alone after a recent divorce. They didn't rush in. Instead, they spent weeks getting to know one another over coffee. They discussed everything from bedtime routines and cleaning habits to views on politics and privacy. We even made a compatibility checklist. Grace laughs. It was more thorough than anything I'd ever seen on a dating site. Rather than looking for someone exactly like herself, Grace focused on shared values. Lillian was an early bird who loved morning walks. Grace preferred quiet evenings with her books. They saw these differences not as obstacles, but as opportunities to complement each other's rhythm. Once they agreed to try living together, they kept it intentional. They split the bills fairly, divided household tasks based on their strengths, and respected each other's need for space. Separate bedrooms, shared kitchen and living area, and open communication became the foundation of their home. Having someone nearby gave Grace peace of mind. I didn't worry about falling or facing an emergency alone, she says. But I also didn't feel like I was giving up who I was, like I did when I lived with family. What surprised Grace the most was how emotionally fulfilling the experience became. Lillian encouraged her to try new things, art classes, short trips, and weekly movie nights. They developed what she called a parallel friendship, sometimes side by side, sometimes separate, but always supportive. The arrangement lasted 2 joyful years, until Lillian moved to be closer to her grandchildren. She became like chosen family. Grace reflects, it showed me that connection doesn't have to come from blood, it can come from trust, respect, and shared life. Would you ever consider sharing your home with another senior? What qualities would matter most in someone you live with? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. In her third living experiment, Grace Lynn stepped into a world she never knew existed, intentional co-housing communities for older adults. I used to think senior living meant nursing homes or quiet neighborhoods with shuffleboard. She laughs. I had no idea there were places designed for people who still wanted to live with purpose and independence. Through a friend at the local library, Grace discovered the concept of co-housing neighborhoods where older adults live in private homes but share common spaces. Meals and responsibilities. Curious, she visited Harmony Haven, a 30-unit community where residents aged 55 and older had co-designed their village. Each person had a private home, while communal kitchens, gardens, and activity spaces fostered daily interaction and mutual support. What touched her most was the balance between privacy and connection. Residents could cook alone or join communal dinners. They could tend private garden plots or collaborate in shared areas. She spent a week there as part of a trial, stay sharing meals, helping in the garden, and attending movie nights. The structure of the community was surprisingly sophisticated. Everyone had a voice in decisions through regular meetings and working groups focused on maintenance, events, and welcoming newcomers. It felt like a warm, vibrant village. Grace recalls, but filled with people who still had energy and strong opinions. Grace also explored other models, eco-villages, active senior apartments, and home-sharing programs pairing elders with younger housemates in need of affordable housing. But her 4-month trial at Harmony Haven left the deepest impression. It gave me back something I didn't even realize I'd lost, a sense of belonging. She says, there was laughter, sharing, and a renewed sense of purpose. But eventually, I realized I needed more solitude than the setup could offer. While she didn't choose co-housing as a permanent solution, the experience taught her a vital lesson. Aging doesn't have to mean isolation. With the right environment, seniors can live with dignity, choice, and joy and connection. It wasn't a perfect fit for me, Grace says, but it opened a door I hadn't seen before. Would you consider a co-housing community in your later years? If so, what qualities would matter most to you? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Grace Lynn's most powerful insight came not from any apartment, family home, or senior community. It came from a quiet question that changed everything. What kind of life do I want to wake up to each day? After years of living alone and testing out different arrangements, Grace realized something crucial. It was never just about where she lived. It was about who she chose to surround herself with. So instead of searching for the perfect place, she created something much more meaningful, a circle of chosen family. Grace rented a small, cozy duplex in a walkable neighborhood. She invited her longtime friend Helen, a retired nurse, to rent the unit next door. They had their own kitchens, their own space, but they could knock on each other's door anytime. Then came the bigger idea. Grace reached out to 5 other women she knew, widows, single women, all living alone, and proposed something radical, yet simple. Let's form our own community. They called it the Village. Each week, one woman hosted dinner. They kept a group message going every day, checking in, sharing news, offering help. One handled errands. Another drove to doctor visits. Grace helped organize their birthdays and holidays. What made it work was freedom. No rules, no guilt, just shared presence and care on their own terms. They weren't roommates. They didn't live under one roof, but they were never alone. We became each other's anchor. Grace shared, I didn't need someone to take care of me. I just needed people who genuinely cared. Over the past 5 years, their village has evolved. Some moved away, others joined, but the spirit stayed the same: friendship by choice, support without obligation. Grace's story echoes what Harvard researchers have found: the strongest predictor of health and happiness in later life is not wealth or even perfect health. It's meaningful connection. And this is connection, chosen and cultivated with care. If you could build your own village, who would be in it? What kind of support would matter most to you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your vision. At age 92, Grace Lynn is more vibrant, fulfilled, and socially connected than she was in her early 70s. Her life today reflects a deep sense of purpose, companionship, and emotional security. What began as an experiment in living evolved into a blueprint for graceful aging rooted not in where you live, but in how intentionally you connect. Grace's journey is more than just a personal success story. It aligns closely with decades of scientific research that confirms one central truth: strong, meaningful social relationships are the most powerful predictor of healthy aging. In fact, they outperform even genetics, exercise, and diet. One of the most influential studies in this field is the Harvard study of adult development, which has followed hundreds of participants over the course of more than 80 years. Its findings are consistent: people who maintain deep, supportive relationships live longer, report better mental clarity, and experience significantly less chronic pain. As Dr. Robert Waldinger, the study's current director, has stated, "Loneliness kills, connection heals." What makes Grace's model even more powerful is how it reflects a key insight from the research: quality trumps quantity. Her small group of close friends, whom she calls her village, provides more protective benefits than a large extended family with shallow bonds. Studies show that deep connections stimulate the release of oxytocin, reduce cortisol levels, and support stronger immune responses. Similar findings emerge from the Blue Zones research, which explores regions of the world with the highest concentrations of people living past 100. In Okinawa, Japan, elders form moai, small social units of chosen family that meet regularly for support, companionship, and shared purpose. These lifelong bonds are credited as one of the primary reasons behind their exceptional longevity. Neuroscientific studies from UCLA reveal that social isolation activates the same brain centers as physical pain. On the other hand, warm social connections activate dopamine and serotonin pathways, promoting emotional stability and motivation, especially crucial for seniors. In simpler terms, the right relationships can rewire the aging brain for resilience and joy. Grace's living experiences, multi-generational housing, co-housing trials, and chosen family clusters also reflect modern findings. Research from the National Institute on Aging shows that older adults with consistent social engagement have up to a 50% lower risk of developing dementia. Even when controlling for other health factors, mental stimulation through conversation, shared decision-making, and emotional connection keeps the aging brain sharp and adaptable. Additional data from the University of Michigan underscores the physical benefits of strong social networks. Seniors with high social capital, defined as supportive, reciprocal relationships, live an average of 2.5 years longer than their peers. They also show lower blood pressure, better sleep quality, quicker recovery from illness, and more energy in daily life. Perhaps most impressive, the advantages of connection are cumulative. Grace's transformation from 70 to 92 wasn't instant. It was the result of small, steady investments in meaningful relationships. The science is clear: aging with isolation shortens life, but aging with connection expands both lifespan and life satisfaction. Gracelyn's journey from isolation to interdependence wasn't just inspiring, it was practical. Along the way, she developed a clear framework to help others like her evaluate which living setup truly fits their stage of life. If you've ever felt unsure about where or how you want to live as you grow older, these 5 questions may be the guidance you've been waiting for. Question 1. What's your independence level? Rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 10 in 3 areas: physical ability, financial stability, and emotional self-reliance. If you're scoring high in all 3, you have more options. Grace scored 8, and 6 when she started forming her chosen family network, indicating she needed some built-in support, but also valued freedom. Question 2. What's your social energy style? Do you thrive in busy, interactive environments, or do you prefer solitude with the occasional heartfelt conversation? High social energy types may flourish in co-housing, Those with moderate energy might do best with a close-knit group like Grace's village. Lower social energy could align with having a nearby roommate or family member. Question 3. What are your non-negotiables? Grace identified her top 5 must-haves: personal space, decision-making autonomy, financial independence, consistent connection, and emergency support. What are yours? Knowing these helps you filter out arrangements that won't serve your peace of mind. Question 4. How do you handle change and risk? Are you comfortable trying something new, living with new people? Shifting routines. High tolerance for change opens doors to intentional communities. A lower tolerance might suggest easing into change through more familiar settings like family-based living. Question 5. What's your legacy vision? Do you want to spend your later years mentoring, creating, traveling, or simply staying close to family? Grace envisioned building something that would inspire others, so she prioritized flexibility and connection. Your vision will guide your direction. Grace encourages starting small. Try a trial stay, host a rotating dinner group, or connect with like-minded neighbors before making any big changes. Now it's your turn. Which of these 5 questions spoke to you the most? Which living model resonates with your values? Share your reflections in the comments. You might inspire someone else to begin their journey too. Now at 92, Grace Lynn is living proof that aging doesn't have to mean decline. Her journey from lonely widow to joyful community mentor spans over 2 decades, marked by 4 powerful living experiments that reshaped her body, her mind, and her heart. The changes were more than emotional, they were physical and measurable. Her blood pressure stabilized. She began sleeping deeply again. Her energy returned. She now takes fewer medications than she did in her late 70s and hasn't seen the inside of a hospital in 5 years. Her doctor once called her fragile. Now, he calls her his healthiest patient over 90. But the most remarkable change, her spirit. Grace beams with laughter, purpose, and connection. She's built friendships that feel like family. She's traveled to places she once only dreamed of. And most importantly, she no longer fears becoming a burden. I used to think growing old meant becoming invisible. Grace shares softly, but I've learned that when you surround yourself with people who truly care, life expands, not shrinks. Her chosen family has given her what no institution ever could: freedom, belonging, and love. And in that space of safety, Grace has found something priceless herself. Her final reflection is gentle but profound. Aging well isn't about finding the perfect home. It's about building the kind of relationships that turn any place into home. Next month, Grace and her village are heading north to chase the aurora lights. She smiles. There's always something new to see if your heart stays open. If Grace Lynn's journey touched your heart or sparked a new perspective on aging, please give this video a like and share it with someone who needs this message today. Every share helps spread wisdom that can truly change lives. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more uplifting stories from remarkable elders who are rewriting what it means to grow older. And be sure to tap the notification bell so you never miss a chance to learn, connect, and be inspired, because thriving in your golden years is possible with the right voices guiding the way.